So we are headed out today to go check out a part of Utah that I don't think very many people know exists. This place is really bizarre because it has a lot of really interesting white rock formations, which kind of contradict that red rock that you normally get in Utah. Now, this place has actually been on my radar for a long time, but I haven't had the chance to go and see it just yet. The way I discovered this place originally was just by goofing off on Google Maps and zooming in on random parts in the state of Utah, and just happened to find this spot. Now, because I've never been there before and it doesn't seem like a lot of other people have either, at least not to shoot the Milky Way, I'm not really sure what to expect. Either way, I've roped in my friend Max from Pictureline. I just picked up the new Sony G Master 14mm 1.8, so we're gonna go down there and see if we can get some Milky Way photos over these really strange formations. Loading up all the gear into the 4Runner. So we got all my gear loaded up in here. We're still waiting for Max to show up so we can load up his gear.
Ready to go shoot some stars?
I am ready.
Hell yeah.
Now, in the interest of making this a little bit more fun and making it a little bit more like a scavenger hunt where you guys have to go figure out where this place is, we're just gonna call it White Castle in this video. So this trip is gonna be kind of interesting because we aren't gonna have a lot of time at White Castle. We're actually only gonna spend Friday night there, and then we've gotta make our way to a second location we're gonna be shooting Saturday night. So we're only gonna be there for about 12 hours. Now, maybe my favorite thing about this place is it really is in the middle of nowhere, in an area of Utah I don't think many people would really think to go. The route we took to get out there took us for probably about an hour of paved road that really just felt like we were going into the absolute abyss, just the middle of nowhere. Then suddenly that paved road ends and it just turns to dirt, and you've got another hour of driving on just this endless dirt road. We were still going pretty fast. We were going 40 to 50 miles an hour, and it still took us quite a while to get all the way out into this area. So there was a good solid hour there of dirt road driving, which really helped add to this experience because we didn't get to see much of it in the daytime, and it just felt that much more remote and that much more mysterious driving this endless dirt road with basically no sign of civilization.
This is all I need to go shoot stars.
Got the tent and the caffeine, we're good. We ended up making it to this location something like 11 p.m. and quickly set up camp so we could go back and start shooting some Milky Way images in that main geological area. That is so cool. Dude, it's just never ending. It's like there's so many crazy rocks here. I think both of us were so awestruck by how unique and strange this place was. We really didn't get any sleep at all that night. We spent most of the night just staying up, shooting the Milky Way clear until the sunrise. Now, it was a little bit challenging trying to find compositions in the complete darkness, having never been here before. However, I did manage to get a few photos here that I was really happy with. In the interest of time, I ended up spending most of the night just shooting single exposures and didn't even set up a star tracker or any other more complicated type of shot. I just wanted to experiment here and kind of see what I could get and mess around with different compositions. After messing around with a few different single exposure compositions, I decided to shoot a full Milky Way panorama. Now, this Milky Way panorama is entirely made up of single exposures. It's a total of 8 different images taken on the Sony a7 IV with the Sigma 14mm 1.4. My camera settings for this Milky Way panorama were 14mm at f1.4, 30-second exposures at ISO 2500. I was really fortunate here that the foreground managed to reflect enough light with that white rock, which I think helped a lot, that I didn't need to shoot a separate exposure in order to get a nice, bright, clean foreground. I'm sure some of the ambient light pollution there on the horizon also helped illuminate that foreground a little bit as well. Got Max making breakfast. Keep you fuel.
Chef Max.
After a full night of shooting here, we were both so tired, we made our way back to the campsite right about the time sunrise was happening, and I think each of us got about 2 hours of sleep before we realized we really needed to start making our way to that second location, which is still several hours away, so we really didn't have that much time to go back and shoot the location a second time like I would have liked. After breaking down camp and getting some quick breakfast, we did go back to this geological area just to take a few more photos in the midday light. Max ended up throwing his drone up, and so did I, and we got a few interesting drone images of this area. Even though I'd only been there for a few hours, this was quickly becoming one of my favorite places because it was just this endless playground of really bizarre rock formations with no real rhyme or reason to where they would show up. It was just random clusters of these bizarre rock formations, literally just tucked out there in the middle of nowhere. Good view up there?
Oh, it's the best. This place is like another planet. And it's just tucked away in the middle of nowhere. This is definitely a hidden gem.
I love just the weird rocky, like...
Those pocket holes? Yeah, my alarm went off. I was like, okay, cool. I got a backup alarm. You know, I'll probably hear Derek stirring. You probably did the same thing. And then both of us just immediately clonked back out. Our
time here at White Castle was extremely short, so unfortunately I don't have a whole lot more to show here of this place because we weren't there for very long. Now I do plan on returning to this place here in 2025 and doing a much more in-depth video and get more footage of this area so you guys can really see it a little bit more up close. Now this video, as well as the previous video, which is exploring Utah's Little Yosemite, is part of a series I'm starting where we're going to go and explore some of the lesser known areas of Utah that not a lot of people are talking about. Like I mentioned before, my absolute favorite thing about this place was how remote it was and that it wasn't regulated. There were no fences, there were no signs, there were no weird regulations. It just felt like real natural wilderness. Aside from the few dirt roads that wander their way out through that area, it really does just feel like you're in the middle of nowhere with absolutely no sign of human civilization. Now, personally, I prefer when natural locations are managed this way, when they're still very natural with not a lot of man-made structures or regulations, and they're harder to access. Now, for that reason specifically, I am not going to disclose the exact location here in this video. This video, as well as the previous video, which is exploring Utah's Little Yosemite, is part of a series where I'm going to go and try and explore some of these lesser known areas of Utah that not many people seem to be talking about, hopefully to try and inspire people to get out and find more areas for themselves, go do some exploring, and find something new that you didn't know existed. Also trying to promote a little bit of awareness about location secrecy and get people on board with the idea of not geotagging and publishing exact locations. Hopefully this will help people realize there are way more locations out there than the ones you see posted on Instagram over and over and over again. There are so many weird and bizarre places, especially in the Western United States, that really all you need to do is do just a little bit of scouting. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I actually discovered this place completely on accident just by goofing around using Google Maps, looking at some of the weird geological areas in different parts of the state. So I'm actually going to show you guys right now just exactly how I would go about finding places like this. Okay, so we are here inside of Google Maps. Now, it doesn't matter if you use Google Maps or Apple Maps or Google Earth. I actually think Apple Maps and Google Earth might be better for scouting terrain. I just use Google Maps because I can create these little pins here, and I've just created a system here where different pins mean different things. So the way I found this location quite literally was just by jumping on Google Maps, and I just look at this great huge view of this general area of the state of Utah. So here is the state of Utah's boundaries, moving right over in this area. Now Utah has a lot of desert on the west end as well as down here in the south where Moab is. And so I'll quite literally just pick an area that looks like it might have something interesting. So this big gap right here down by Green River, let's just zoom in right there. And looks like already there's a pin. So almost always there's going to be some kind of pin here, and you can click on these pins. Sometimes there will be photos here attached to it that will give you kind of an idea what that area looks like. A lot of times though, I'm just doing this based off of the aerial imagery. So right here, there's some interesting kind of cliffs here, part of the San Rafael Swell in Utah. If we zoom in, I can see a little bit of the texture and some of the area here. And sometimes there's some of these pins that have some images. So let's go to another part of the state. Let's go up here to the West Desert. Now, out here by the Salt Flats, there's a large area of just nothingness, West Desert. But a lot of people don't think to really look here. But if I zoom in, I've already dropped some pins. This is an area known as Knowles, Utah. There are some sand dunes out here, and I've got those marked because these might make some interesting images, especially for a drone. So I quite literally discovered these just by zooming in and being like, oh, there's some sand dunes here. I'm going to drop a pin real quick. On your phone, it's easier than on the desktop. You can just click and hold and save this location. There's also some really interesting textures over here that might be kind of fun to photograph with a drone. So some of this area might be kind of fun to get some aerial images with the drone. That's quite literally how I find most of these places. And like I was saying before, I probably spend something like 3, 4, 5, maybe 5 hours a week just goofing off on Google Maps on my phone. So if I'm waiting in line for something or I have some downtime or something, I'll just hop on and zoom in like this, and then I'll find an interesting location and drop a pin and save it. And that is how I found the location that we're going to call White Castle that we're going to go to in this video. And that wraps up our exploration of the area we are going to call White Castle, Utah. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and this inspires you to get out and go find some new places. Now we are going to be doing a few more videos where we explore some really bizarre areas of Utah. So if you'd like to see some of the videos about some of these other strange places, make sure you guys are subscribed. I'm going to go ahead and link Max's Instagram down there in the description, as well as my own if you guys want to see some of the photos that come from these trips, or you guys can also see the photos on my website, which I will link down there in the description below as well.